We'll call the meeting to order. The first item on the agenda this evening will be to accept the minutes of the last meeting. So everybody's got a copy of the minutes?
Move we accept the minutes of the last meeting
As written.
as written.
No, thank you. No modifications to that 30 minutes up there, which I will correct. Please note that I am going to take these minutes and on the second line where it says 6:30 PM, that will be replaced with a 6 o'clock p.m.
Oh, hold on, so Holly wasn't not
Holly-
reading,
Holly
Holly
couldn't-
actually read correctly.
How did it read correctly? My apologies.
Correct.
I was here at 6 when it was here.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the minutes as written with the one change of the time at the top, from 6:30 to 6.
Just to clarify, we are meeting as a committee at 6:30.
6:30 from now on.
When we meet with the school, it's at 6.
At 6, that's their meeting. Tomorrow evening. All those in favor of the motion? Okay.
Oh, did anybody second me?
Yep.
Oh, did it? Okay.
All right. The second thing that I'd like to discuss, Tom doesn't agree, but I think it's very important. Is everybody aware that there's a special town meeting scheduled for a week from Thursday, on the 19th? I'm very dismayed with the Board of Selectmen in that they turned around and called a special town meeting with money articles, and they did not turn around and get it posted without any recommendations of the Warrant Finance Committee.
Mr. Chairman, may I add a comment to that, and note for the record that the ordinance requires that if I understand correctly, the ordinance requires that the Warrant Finance Committee offer an opinion on articles containing appropriation of money.
Yes. I did have a copy of it.
Why do we have to incur the expense of a special town meeting? Why couldn't we have done this at the annual meeting?
These are the type of questions that should be addressed to our liaison with the Board of Selectmen, but apparently has chosen not to attend the meeting.
But anyone answer a question?
Well, I say, I expected somebody from the Selectmen's office to be here.
I asked my question just in thinking that someone might have a chance to converse with the gentleman in question. For example, why are there two articles? Why isn't the sum, one article, the sum of both Article 2 and Article 3?
Well, one's for the overdraft in the account specifically.
Oh, okay.
And the other
okay.
one's to appropriate the
Gotcha.
amount for the rest of the year.
Thank you, I didn't pick that up. Thank you.
So, as I say, like myself, I have two basic issues. One is why was it posted without our input? And my second concern is, why is the necessity of having a special town meeting now when could have been handled later on in another one of the town meetings. So,
Will the requested funds be divided equally between both of the districts?
Generally, yeah, that's the way it works, yeah.
Because the budget for this year is not the same for each district, and I was wondering if one is larger, one has more roads that are requiring being plowed and serviced.
No, I think they appropriate basically the same amount, don't they, Holly?
Well, the labor for winter for District 1 was set out at $10,000, whereas in District 2, it's for $20,000.
No, that's for something else.
Okay. This is for, it says for labor, for road district winter. I don't know what that means.
So,
The,
so he pays subcontractors and he, if his labor's higher than me, he has employees, more employees than he does. It's just, I do think that they get about the same amount of money, but
Yeah.
they do things differently.
that other blue book I showed you? No, not on the chair?
Yes?
Oh, no, the town report.
Yeah.
Oh, the one you just gave me.
That has the town meeting article. and
Okay.
What was appropriated.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you'll see for the.
They're basically
what
the same.
amount and what.
And then there's some that they share together, which is
Richard,
salt and sand.
Oh, I just got one other quick question. Is there a logistical reason why they couldn't have rolled this into the June town meeting?
No,
Not that I'm aware
no.
of. For the past couple of
Don't
years, it
think
seems
that's
as though
a
they've been
decision
doing
that's being
this,
made.
but
I don't think that's a decision being made by Scott and Dave. I think, you know,
Well,
that's not their decision to
Right.
make.
No.
That's brought
That's
to the
correct.
public.
It's not there.
So-
I was told that they were worried that if they didn't get it approved now, and they waited for the town meeting, and the town meeting turned it down, or ratifying the overdraft, then they would be liable out of their pocket.
no.
Yes, technically that's true, Nancy.
Yeah.
Yes, selectmen approve a warrant,
Oh, I
like a
see.
weekly warrant.
I see what you're
Which is
saying.
an overdraft. That's the selectmen's only real responsibility with respect to management of the road commissioners, and that is to approve or disapprove of a particular payment request.
Okay.
And if they go over the article amount, or in the case of the roads, 15% over that amount, then technically they are legally responsible. We've been there, and, you know, it's not a big deal, but,
Even though that is the only account by law, they're allowed to overdraft.
yes.
But they're only allowed to overdraft a certain
Yeah,
percentage.
15%, and they've already overdrafted something like, what, 25 or 27%? So,
Probably wouldn't make too much difference, though, if they waited another 2 weeks.
So, as I say, again, my feeling is we could turn around and make our recommendation, and I could present that to the office manager in the morning, and there's still time for them to repost it. They're only required 7 days prior to the town meeting to have it posted.
And you prefer that they do what? What do you prefer?
Well, as I say, it would seem to me legally, we should have our recommendations on it.
Well, may I make a suggestion at this point? That's fine for us to move, but we can't get our questions answered tonight. If we could ask questions tonight and get responses and hear about what has happened and why we're here, then it might be appropriate for us to participate in such an action, but not being able to get an answer to a question, okay, I'm not doing my job, which is for the town meeting, okay? So I, for one, will not vote.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's my responsibility to answer the questions, you know, that are coming up with it. I think that that's either the selectmen or the road commissioners. I'm
Right.
not the road commissioner.
I
I've been
agree.
told that many times.
I agree.
Okay, well,
I will,
so you prefer, we just sit around and,
I would make a motion that we table this item on the agenda.
okay? There's a motion to table these articles on a special town meeting?
I think that's what Tom just did, isn't it?
I made the motion to
Yeah,
table it, yes.
But it need to be seconded. Seconded. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to table any action on these articles for the special town meeting. Any more discussion?
How do you see a pathway toward resolving this in a timeline?
Yes, but it's not for us to initiate that,
Okay.
okay?
I mean, they signed this the 26th of February. You would have thought that they would have approached the chairman to get an answer, or to give us a chance to discuss it.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of tabling any action?
I have to vote, can I just like abstain?
Yeah,
Because
sure.
it's,
Yeah.
I'll abstain.
Yeah.
I just think it's more appropriate.
Okay, the other, we got a lot of things coming up with the school. The school's been in flux and their articles have been changing almost daily. So, tomorrow evening is the school board meeting, and they will be voting on the articles that they have for the April town meeting. So I encourage, if you know, please, if you can at all make it, to try to make it to the meeting tomorrow night, so that you can see some of the changes that are coming up, and there'll be some other information presented that, if there's any questions, you can see how they answer it. So, is there anybody that can't make it? Nancy, the
I'm not
question?
sure.
I don't think I'm getting
I will get a package. I tried to get copies made today, but I'm told that it's unofficial until the school board votes on it.
Yeah.
So they'll turn around and vote tomorrow evening, and then Wednesday I'll get copies of the packages, and I'll get it up. I'll let you know. And what we can do is, if you're going by my house, fine, or otherwise we'll make an arrangement and I'll drop it off.
Okay, thank you, Richard. When they met last, when we were in attendance, Mr. England, the new
Yeah,
super, he kind of went on a point-by-point walkthrough on the proposals that he had made to amend the initial budget numbers.
Right.
And you don't see a large divergence from that, do you?
No, I've been to the last two and had a chance to look at the first one on the 2nd of February, when they first began this thing. Basically, it's a very nice idea of being able to take the funding that is presently undesignated specifically and putting it into designated
Yeah.
funds, designated slots, designated buckets, if you will, so that they will be able to experience problems that come up, for example, with a special ed child that may come in the middle of the school year, unanticipated, that would cost $30,000 or $40,000 out of their budget, and then have to run around looking for funds to cover that when it's a federal mandate. And so they want to start developing permanent funds or permanent buckets for this and make them designated by the voters, so that they won't have to worry about these kinds of unanticipated needs. They also have a couple of programs that they want to pursue in terms of making the school sort of a center of excellence in other ways, such as pre-kindergarten programs and foreign language programs and other things. So I think it's very forward, it's very avant-garde. I think it's something that everybody ought to really know about, because I think it's a real improvement as far as the process of budgeting for these school boards.
well, one of the big things that we're talking about on the buckets or designated funds is they would want to create about 8 of them. So that's a big thing. And,
You already have 3. One is for the fuel for the school.
And school tuition's gotta be one.
Actually, I don't remember that being one, but there's a whole group of them that they want to make so that they'll have definite funding each year with their experience in the past of how many people will be using this money and not disturbing the general budget of operation. So I thought it was a very, very fine idea, and I think the school board was very enthusiastic about putting at least a good portion of it in as a recommendation.
unfortunately,
Traditionally,
He's looking at me.
we have a member of the committee that doesn't quite agree with that philosophy. Did you want to,
I can if you want, Dick, if that's on your agenda next.
well, let's say, maybe you're going to.
Bring the topic up?
You know, in a brief summary of, I pointed out to the superintendent of the school and to Tom that I look at it as actually two different ways of managing finances. And it's not to say that either one is exactly wrong, and some people have their way of doing things, and other people have a different way of doing things. So it just so happens that Tom has a different idea,
What we need is a blend that works, okay? But we need to understand some things before we can make that blend intelligently, okay?
if you want to make your point.
Okay, yes, thank you, okay? I will attempt to make it briefly. We have a number of funds stuffed away, I shouldn't say stuffed away, but in reserve, presumably saved for acquisitions of the town, capital expenditures, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the school is attempting now to do the same thing for contingency funding, okay? Now, what happens in fact is that we're taking money from the citizens of the town of Acton and putting it in town coffers, all right? The cost of putting money in town coffers is not even one way or the other. That is to say that it costs the citizens of the town of Acton money to have that money sitting there. And the reasoning goes as follows. You and I and individuals that do not have the power to tax, and this is the key, and this is the fundamental difference between a government and a private entity, whether it's a business or an individual, you and I can save money, put it at risk, earn a return that is substantially greater than the town can, because we're able to put it at risk. In contrast to that, it costs us individually a lot of money to borrow, okay? We pay ranges anywhere 5, 6, 10. If you're on the margin, you may pay 18% if you're paying interest on a small loan like you would get on your credit card, all right? So, as individuals, we can use money to make money, which you do, for instance, in the stock market, or people who are privately employed or self-employed invest money in their businesses. And presumably, they make in excess of 10%. They should be making in excess of 10% in any case, because 10% is easy what you can make in the stock market. In contrast to an individual, an entity that has the power to tax, okay, can borrow at incredibly low interest rates. For instance, I just learned today that the town of Sanford, in setting up their new school, has borrowed their money for less than 1% to construct a new vocational school in South Sanford. Now the problem with that is, well, I shouldn't say the problem. If Sanford takes that money and puts it in the bank, or does whatever they're going to do with it until it's actually spent, they're going to invest it in something very, very, very secure. That's their fiduciary responsibility as a municipality. You can't put money at risk. So, Sanford or any other town can borrow money at low rates, okay, but they can't save money at high rates. Individuals, in contrast, can earn at much higher rates than municipalities can because they're not burdened by that fiduciary responsibility to other people that have the money, okay? But it also costs them a lot more to borrow. So, if we have $100 here, okay, that is charged in taxes more than is necessary to run the town, that moves the municipal coffers, it's saved there at 3%, well, 2% maybe now, or maybe 1%.
Yeah. maybe
And
one-
at best, 4%, okay? If that money stays in my pocket, or Tom Cashin's pocket, or Mr. Mooney's pocket, or whoever, there's a good chance that you're gonna see a return a lot better than that 4%. You're gonna get 10% if you invest it wisely. And now let's just expand on this concept a little bit. Let's talk about a 30-year-old that is charged, say, $20 extra that the town doesn't actually need, but is gonna put into a savings account. A 30-year-old who's saving for retirement, if he can take that $20 and put it in his retirement account and get a 10% return on it, when he's 65, that's gonna be worth better than $500. Okay? That's due to compounding of interest. That's not gonna happen with the town. The total cost to the town, or to, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say it. The total cost to the individuals of town over a period of 35 years of, let me phrase this correctly, of charging the approximately 3,000 taxpayers in the town of Acton, the total cost over 35 years is about $1.68 million. In other words, if the money is left, if that $1 million is left in somebody's pocket this year, or the $20 for each individual is left in an individual pocket, 35 years from now, that's going to be $1.68 million, because you can earn 10% on it. If it's in the municipal coffers, it's earning 2%, maybe 1%, maybe 3%. If you're really lucky, 4%. So, any questions?
Well, your premise is that you can make 10%, and I would question that in
Right.
2015.
Right at the moment, you can.
That's
But if we look historically over the past 100 years,
That's
10% is the right number, right?
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay, probably so.
Okay, yeah.
But looking forward, I don't think there's ever going to be a time when individuals can make 10%.
I made 11% last year.
Well,
Good.
And I didn't work at it at all, okay? But individuals can too, all right? Now, what is the alternative? Yes, Tom?
Just quickly, can you apply, I understand the two
Concepts.
bits of accounting there.
Yep.
But in the municipal context, the municipality needs the money, for example, in the anticipated budget proposal that the school committee is putting together now, they have a timeline, at which point, within a certain number of months, that they might have to draw on those funds
Correct.
within the calendar year,
Correct.
the fiscal calendar.
Correct. That is correct.
So that's the constraint, that the municipality versus the individual doesn't face those kinds of things.
You're making an assumption that that's a constraint, but it's not. Because for any contingency that arises in this town, we can have a town meeting and raise the money. And if we don't have the money in the coffers of the town, we can go to the bank and borrow it at those very low rates. Okay? So the notion that everything that we anticipate, can reasonably anticipate, or may need for contingency spending should be raised in taxes at the beginning of the year is not valid. In fact, I don't understand that there's any reason to raise more than what you can reasonably anticipate to spend. And then if you have a contingency, you bring the people together and you raise the money. You borrow.
But even if you borrow it, Tom, it's gonna cause an increase in your taxes anyway.
At the special
Well,
meeting.
it isn't just the interest that you're gonna have to pay, okay? It's the principal.
Well, yes, but you're gonna have to do that in any case. Either you take that principal from money that you've taken away from people a year or 2 or 3 or 5 years before,
But
okay,
if
and
you-
spend it, or,
But what they're saying is that we already have that money available right now.
well, that, yes, you are
Okay,
correct.
so he wants to use part of that undesignated fund to turn around and fill all these little buckets.
I understand
And it's
that.
my understanding that each bucket is going to have sort of a limit.
Well, wait a minute.
It's going to be based on previous data. For example, special ed is going to be based on what they have seen as far as special ed needs occurring unanticipated during the school years, forcing them to go back and try to scrounge 50,000 or 60,000 more because of 2 federally mandated students who came into the school district.
Okay. That is what we are being told. The point again is that any of those contingencies, we can raise the money for if we need it. There are 2 steps in this process. We have, as we all know, an excess of money being saved right now, which has been taken from the taxpayers of the town. The first step in this process is to equitably do something with that money as opposed to raise taxes to keep spending, and that's fine. I don't have a big problem with that. I do have a problem with the notion that we should continue to fund contingency spending at the rates that have been proposed in these buckets, okay? In the future, in other words, going back.
That may be a valid point.
So I don't have a big problem with saying, okay, let's, because all this amounts to is spending down the excess taxes that have been raised over the years as opposed to raising taxes to pay for new contingencies. I don't have an objection to that. And I certainly would not propose, in fact, I would be in favor of that. I certainly would not propose raising taxes in lieu of reducing the undesignated surplus. Now, the undesignated surplus should be spent now. My problem is, as we transition with this notion of savings, and we're talking to school board now because that's in buckets, but what have we been doing for the past 5 to 10 years in town? We have been setting up these little savings accounts for our fire trucks, for this, that, and the other thing, and that money gets collected. We raise $50,000 to put in an account here for the fire truck, and $50,000 for this, and $50,000 for that, and what's happening is that money is being collected from the citizens. The flip side of the young person we're talking about is the old guy we're talking about. Okay, the guy who's living on Social Security, okay, and may die before any of that money is ever spent for anything. Okay, so we have citizens of the town out there that are taxpayers, residents of the town, maybe collecting Social Security, okay, and they're being asked to cough up for something that they may never see. That's the other end of the spectrum, okay? We're not talking a lot of money here, but we are talking on the margins, and we are talking people who are in business for themselves, okay? And we're talking to young who can realize appreciation from that capital, and we're talking the old who are being asked to spend money for something that they may never benefit from. And I think the last part of that is a moral issue. Right? And I will stop. That's a quick.
issue,
But
should stop.
would you please pass this around, Polly? This is all described and illustrated here and laid out in numbers.
I'd like to take this opportunity to,
The moral issue is the older folks.
I see. It always is.
I'd like to take this opportunity to bring it to the attention of the committee that the pressing thing here right now is what is happening at the school in setting up all these contingency accounts. But I just want to make sure that everybody is aware that in the last few years, like Tom said, on the municipal side, the town has gone way overboard in carrying balances and setting up all the reserve funds. Again, the problem I have there, okay, my experience and my dealing with people that know a lot more about managing finances than I do, turn around and tell me that when you, it's actually going back to what we call net budgeting, the way that he did it 50 years ago. Where they always carried over. If you, any department that they had their budget, they had it in money. Well, what happens is then all of a sudden you lose control and you can ask yourself, well, department so-and-so, how much is it costing you, Well, as I say, he's got the amount to be raised, but also he's authorized to turn around and use, he's got a little bit money in this bucket, he's got a little bit money in this one, and this one here that has been carried over. And you don't know how much those amounts are at the time you're having town meeting. Because it's already, it's a budget for this year, and you're voting on the budget for next year. So it's a case of being able to properly manage your department. And you can't do it. And that's why back in 1990s, I turned around and said, change us over from net budgeting to gross budgeting. And ask the managers, okay, you tell me how much is it gonna cost to run your department? And that's what you do your very best, and that's what we turn around. And then if any do happen to have any money left over, it automatically falls into the undesignated fund balance, which can be used if it gets above a certain level to reduce taxes. So the other way I'm looking at it too is that people in years past, whether it's a road commissioner or somebody running the solid waste or the fire department and whatnot, they think it's their funds. No, it's the taxpayers' funds. That money belongs to everybody. So just because we appropriate X number of dollars for a certain department, that should be only what is necessary to run that, department. And when you start having all these other balances carried over, you lose complete control of managing.
Can I expand a little bit on that, Dick, on the notion of carryovers? We do have to have some carryovers. The town has some fiduciary responsibilities with respect to some sums, the scholarship funds, the cemetery funds, etc. Those we do have to carry at town meeting. But the notion of carrying operating funds, and contingency funds are operating funds, okay? There's two things wrong with it. First thing, when you go to the town meeting to vote on carrying those funds, you have no idea what they are, because those are not audited numbers. Those are numbers, they can't give you a number that they can reliably tell you. So you're appropriating money and you don't know how much you're appropriating when you carry funds of that sort, previously designated funds in the next year. The second problem with it is, it makes it very, very difficult to go back and reconstruct and look at your budget, and very, very difficult to audit it, okay? To follow the paper trail. If you, may I finish? What needs to happen is, at the end of the fiscal year, everything needs to lapse that can lapse. So you start with a clean book. You have one article for the appropriation for the sum, instead of finding pieces of the appropriation in this article, that article, and another article, which makes, number one, a mess of accounting, and number two, something that's very, very obscure to our taxpayers and our voters on the floor of the town meeting. They vote for a road budget, or they vote for this budget or that budget, okay? They may or may not be voting for the total sum, because back here there's an article that carries some or transfers something from here to someplace else. In order for the taxpayer to understand what they're doing, they need one article that says this is what this is going to cost. And next year they can go back then and look at that article and say, last year we appropriated this much, okay? This year we're appropriating that much, okay? And if they have questions, fine. But if you don't have that clarity and continuity, then you're going to lose track, as Dick said.
I think that the school board realizes that there's some refinement that's going to have to be effected here. But in terms of, not all of these things are contingency buckets.
No.
Some of them go hand in hand with the strategic planning of the school board. And that would include realizing that as the federal government gets out of education funding and private corporations are increasing grants, that the school board should look very, very seriously at grants in terms of grant writers, grant seekers, for schools. And there's a lot of grant money out there that they're not taking advantage of at this time. That was one of the buckets, the new buckets that they're proposing. Another one was in the foreign languages, which I think is one of the real problems as far as our school is concerned, is we didn't have enough money to keep the Spanish program going, and the Spanish program had to be discontinued. And now the fact is that foreign languages are becoming increasingly important to the country. And are there ways of being able to be very innovative in getting foreign language teachers into the school, starting at first grade or kindergarten through the 8th grade, to coincide with what Stanford is going to be making as far as increased foreign languages in the high school once they get to high school. And so these are not contingency, but in fact trying to develop realizations from the strategic planning. And I would agree, one of the big problems would be not having a roof or a lid on each of these buckets. They have to have a lid based on previous data. I mean, if they have 14 special ed kids in the school and it's going up by 20% over a 3-year period, then they know they're going to have a problem the following year with another child coming into the school system unanticipated in the middle of the school year. And so they need to have funds for that. But there should be a ceiling on it, and I think they realize that.
I think they do too, and I don't, if you can predictively demonstrate, then you have no argument with the
Right,
proper
exactly,
budget.
exactly.
And it all isn't contingent upon that. But establishing contingency funds just to cover yourself in this remote chance that something is going to happen, that is costing us all, and it is wrong.
I agree,
Okay,
I agree with you there, but I think they're aware of your,
They are.
and they are going to, in fact, work this in such a way that's an appropriate presentation for the community.
So one of the things that I'd like to encourage all members of the committee, don't be afraid to raise questions. Because this is, I don't want us to be in a situation where we're just rubber stamp the articles that come up. If there's a department in the town that you've got a question on that doesn't seem like that they're operating quite right, speak up. We'll get it out on the table, and all of a sudden, maybe somebody will listen and turn around and say, maybe we should do things slightly different.
Yeah.
So as I say, we may not get exactly 100% of what we individually want, but all of a sudden we may hopefully be making improvements to the operation of our town.
I guess my motivation for going to these points tonight is twofold. One is the loss of individual funds by over what I believe to be over collection of taxes. And the other is clarity on the floor of the town meeting, because everybody knows that our town meeting has been in decline. And my sense of that is that there's huge frustration because, first of all, people don't understand. They can read all the documents that are out there, but in a lot of cases they don't understand those. Okay? And then we have these various articles that overlap and transfer funds from here to there. People don't understand that either. So my focus is to attempt to bring clarity to the process so that the voters can actively participate in an intelligent way and understand the process, because I think a lot of them don't now. And that's one of the reasons that we see for the decline of the town meeting. And the other one is a sense of frustration on the part of a lot of people. But we won't go there.
Quick question.
Address the chair, please.
Do you see that the school board in this delineating their buckets, so to speak, are they meeting you halfway with your notion of how we may be able to?
I think it's a work in progress, Tom.
Yes.
Okay.
I would say yes.
Sure.
They just dropped this out in the beginning of February after they had their meetings.
Yeah.
And they haven't finished the formulation of the buckets, let alone all the details to them. And so,
We probably should disclose, Dick, that Dick and I were down there today. We had a meeting with them. There was an exchange of ideas, thoughts. And they had wished that we had come forward with this sooner, but quite frankly, I have been discussing it with Dick for a while, and I didn't want to go to the superintendent as an individual or without discussing it with you folks first. Unfortunately, they're getting ready to vote tomorrow night, so Dick kind of called me up and says, "Can you meet with the superintendent tomorrow afternoon?" I said, "Yeah, okay." But that's how the process has evolved. So we did have a discussion, a sharing of ideas, but it's a work in progress. There's no question about it. And understand this: I am, for the most part, I firmly support the proposals that the superintendent has made, with this one reservation. And I think he understands my reservation reasonably well now. I'm not sure he's convinced by it, but I think he understands it.
But, I mean, I can empathize with their sense of responsibility to make things work on a very short timeline when they get in a bind. They, the mechanism of going back to the town meeting to raise funds for a child whose needs need to be met immediately, more or less. I think they're in a little maybe different situation than some of the accounts maybe that.
I don't.
No, I don't think so, because they presented their ward to the town, who basically looks it over and then gives them a check for whatever money they say that they need. So they do have a time there, where they could plan on a meeting to supplement an account if it were necessary.
They're appropriating for the whole year, Tom, okay?
Right.
If you have an event halfway through the year, there's half the budget still there, which they can pick those things up and wait for the town meeting for, okay? It's not, and in fact, their budget extends with payments out until the beginning of the next school year, so it's spread out for the whole summer. So there's plenty of time there to deal with that issue, okay? And, there's certainly plenty of time to deal with issues of raising money for oil, or raising money for a new boiler, or things of that sort. I've said enough about it tonight. I'm just trying to share what my thinking is, okay?
I think you better take into account that it's going to be a very contentious town meeting.
Beg your pardon?
Very contentious town meeting.
Well, I don't know
In
about
June, you
that,
mean?
Because, not from the school standpoint,
but I would hope not.
but from the standpoint of the fire department, the rescue department, the salt shed problem,
Yeah.
and at this point, I don't think the three selectmen have done anything to make it a process where the people will understand it.
Well, I won't comment. I do think we have a lot of issues on the table before us, and there are a lot of questions that rightfully should be answered. And I, for one, before I vote, want to know what the answers to them are. And I think part of the purpose, or I would hope that part of the purpose of having everybody here tonight was, this I mentioned to you today in an email, that we ought to ask people about some of these issues, what they want to know or what they need to know before they can vote intelligently on the salt shed, and the other various capital expenditures that we're looking at.
Well, first of all, we all need to have the same information. I would like to have one of these books so I can actually go through it and see.
Yes.
You can't give some of the books to some people and not to others. That happened to me last year, and it's not happening to me this year.
I don't think.
If you want us to ask questions, we need to have the material,
Right.
all of us.
I agree.
I'd like to make sure that everybody's aware of what Mark mentioned about maybe a contentious town meeting. There's going to be, I think, a lot of discussion, because I think the selectmen are preparing articles for replacing the sand and salt shed, which is going to be costing hundreds of thousands of dollars. We have the potential or possibility of merging the Acton ambulance and forming a fire and rescue department. figures that are coming in there are, right now, are talking about, I think something like $427,000 added on top of the fire department
A
budget.
year operating.
But that's for someone, a dedicated responder,
Yeah,
correct?
two responders.
Two responders.
When you say dedicated, excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you say dedicated, I think they're all dedicated, so what do
Well,
you mean
no,
by
I
dedicated?
meant, I meant
So what do you mean by that?
Paid,
Okay.
as opposed to
All right.
volunteer. They are.
Make sure I'm
all
clear on that.
dedicated, You're
Yeah.
correct.
But, so as I say, there's
Thank you.
two great big budget articles there. The,
And you're not going to get the kind of representation you should have if you insist on having it on Saturday morning. Especially if the previous weekend was rainy and this one isn't.
But if
It's
there's
still
these,
priorities.
if there's these articles with this amount of money, hopefully it does bring out more people. Because it's really, I think it's a shame when 40 people are deciding the fate of our town. It's just
well, like
crazy.
I think there were 32
Yeah,
that are making the decisions.
so hopefully it will get people out.
But, you know, I personally, I've thrown out there the idea of trying something different would be, now that the school has been able to move their town meeting back into April, why couldn't we turn around and have our town meeting, instead of the middle of June, have it maybe early May, or the middle of May? Okay? At least try, see if it makes a difference. You know, when you have a problem, you turn around and there's no exact solution, then you turn around and try different things till you see if you can find, you know, what may work.
Yeah.
But you gotta try.
I agree.
And all of a sudden, you can see what's happening. They've already scheduled the thing for, I don't know, about the 15th of June or 18th of June, so.
I've spoken with a number of people who would prefer an earlier town meeting. And as I told Dick the other day, I said, the thing that's wonderful about March town meeting is everybody gets mad as hell at their neighbors all winter long, you know? Get full of cabin fever, you come out and fight it out on the floor of the town meeting, and everybody goes home and has a wonderful summer after that.
Yeah.
You're all good friends.
Well, you're not gonna have great weather compete, you're not gonna compete with the great weather if you have it earlier, hopefully.
Well, March is usually
No, but
Not-
people,
not fake wood, fairly stable.
people either do not understand or remember why we turned around and ended up in June.
Some of us do.
What did I say?
Yeah.
You know, I'm the one that changed everything back in the mid-90s. And one of the things at that time was that the school was not able to get their funding and get their information from the state early enough to have an early town meeting. And so the best they could do is get their budget together by the beginning of June. And so I turned around and by having us have the same fiscal year, we ended up with, because of the school budget, having it the middle of June. But as I say, things have changed now, and all of a sudden you look at what's happening this year. We're working on the school budget right now, and it's, you know, it was in February, and we're in early March, and they're gonna schedule to have this, town meeting in, April.
Not only that, we know, yeah, right, we know
So
what the state's gonna come up with.
Why couldn't we have been
Yeah.
working on the
Right.
town budget and turn around and have it either, say, late April or, early May?
I'm in favor.
But
Is there any legal reason why you can't do it by mail or by email?
do
Do
what?
what?
Vote.
Yankees.
I'm just asking.
Yeah,
No, no, there,
you
no, there
really
isn't.
don't want to,
Right.
I don't think.
Let me, well, somebody else want to address that? I'm gonna make a comment here, but
We're Yankees.
I've been talking too much.
Well, the purpose of town meeting is for everybody to get together and the opportunity for people to make comments and people to learn from that.
Yes.
At least that is the purpose. Some towns I know have gone to having sort of like a pre-town meeting, and then you vote by ballot, you mail in a ballot or whatever, or you go to the town hall and vote on all the articles. And I think it works, but I think fewer people know what's going on. The purpose, I think, is to learn.
How many people
That's
did we
always
have
been-
last year?
32.
We have 2,100 voters in town. We had 35 people at the town meeting.
I think a big piece of the town meeting that's important is if you've got questions for the heads, they're right there, they should be right there, and they should be ready to answer those questions.
And if you feel strongly about something, you can certainly express
Yeah,
yourself.
and it's not easy to do that, to get up and do that, but I think it's important.
And the other part of it is the negotiation that takes place on the floor of the town meeting, Bill, and this is a very important element. I tell some of my neighbors on Acton Ridge that I really don't give a damn if their road gets plowed, okay? I care if mine gets plowed, and guess what? If you'll vote to pay for mine, I'll vote to pay for yours, and that's the key to making the town meeting work, right there. Right?
Shared self-interest.
Absolutely. It's a little bit more complex than that, but the negotiation process that takes place on the floor of the town meeting is a vital element of making the system work.
And the feedback.
And feedback, right?
Yeah.
Those are the two.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody have any concerns or comments about anything, that we should be looking into or whatnot?
I have a philosophical question. Does the, mechanical and philosophical question, does the finance committee normally make recommendations on zoning proposals?
I think they can, but it's primarily on any financial.
Fiscal, right,
That's why it's warrant and finance.
right.
But, let me just see if I can.
I think in the upcoming situation that we're going to be looking at, a couple of zoning issues, I think it could be very easily made that there is a fiscal impact involved in the proposals.
Well, I think we are both warrant and finance committee meeting, the two.
The ordinance says that the committee shall review all proposed warrant articles except any article which involves the election of a municipal officer, and shall obtain factual data to determine their effect on the town. After due consideration and study of the proposed warrant article, the committee shall make a recommendation as to whether the proposed warrant article should be approved based upon the committee's consideration of both the general advisability of the proposed warrant article and its financial impact.
And what if said article is cast in the form of a referendum ballot vote?
We're still,
Yeah.
we still make a
Still a
recommendation.
warrant article.
We're still
Right.
supposed to make a
Just the mode of
recommendation.
voting is,
Right.
okay, good. Thank you.
Now, does everybody have a copy of the ordinance? If not,
Are those the charter of the finance committee?
this is the latest ordinance that sets up what the responsibilities of the warrant finance.
No, I think
No, I
probably
think I
that's
copied
something.
that.
I think it's online, everybody, if you go to the
Yeah.
town
Oh,
website,
okay.
the ordinance is in the upper
Yes.
left-hand corner, you can pull it right off.
Yeah.
That's if you computer literate.
Thank you.
If what?
Just a quick question, Eva. Are there any modes of investment that the town can make, like, that are conservative enough, like municipal bonds or something like that,
Well,
will not be-
I will tell you that the town, at least they used to, keep their money in a bank that invested that on an overnight basis, and then they got the interest that was accumulated on that overnight.
What did they used to call that kind of
Basis.
fund? Everybody could have one. They were paying a substantial sum years ago. They are paying nothing now.
Is it
And,
mutual, is it mutual?
No.
Sweep
it's
accounts.
different. Yeah, sweep accounts, but they were sheltered under a different name. And,
Well, I don't know
Yeah.
how it was done in Maine, but I know when I was on the board in New Hampshire, the town treasurer, every 3 months, she would solicit bids from the banks.
yeah.
She had X number of dollars that she wanted to place somewhere. She placed it with the bank that gave
The best
Take
interest
the
rate.
best-
Best basic interest rate, right,
Yeah.
which is basically what's been done. I mean, one of the things over the past 10 or 15 years, there were huge scandals in California because the California retirement system for its employees had invested recklessly, and also some municipalities in California that had substantial sums in reserve or for contingencies or whatever, had been very reckless with those funds, and a couple of towns actually went bankrupt out in California as a result of that scandal, and Caltrans, which is the, no, it's not Caltrans. what is
Calipers.
Calipers, got in big trouble with investing. And so it's even tighter in terms of exercising your fiduciary responsibility as a municipality now than it was 10 or 15 years ago because of those problems.
That's not in here, Rich.
Oh, no, I can't remember now, I've lost track of who I gave it to.
I have this one.
It's got a different date.
Okay,
The one in the book is 3/1.
okay, that's the latest one. Mark, did you have the 3.5?
I have the 3.1 also. I have the 3.5 now that you just gave me.
Make up.
Those are municipal budgets, right?
Yes.
3/1 is scrubbed then, or no?
Are we gonna discuss any of those at all?
What's that?
Are we gonna discuss any of these things that are on the budget?
Well, it's, I want to try to get as much of this information out, get you a chance to look at it. Some of it is routine, and all of a sudden, it's not controversial or whatnot, and so we don't have to spend a lot of time, discussing it.
Right.
And we pick up the ones where there's some questions and whatnot. Give you an example, okay? If you look at the code officer, there's a budget item in there for $8,000 for a new boat,
I mean, what?
for a new boat.
For the
So-
for the
so that
code
you can do-
enforcement?
Huh?
For code enforcement?
Yeah. And those supplies and equipment.
Okay, there's a difference. So this is last
$600,
year? and this
yes.
is- Okay.
Right?
So it's a,
Oh,
I know last summer I saw a beautiful. What's that?
$8,000?
Yeah, last summer I saw a beautiful stock raffle boat with a 35 horse Johnson on it and everything. Outstanding boat, and I was lucky to get $2,000 for it. So it's, I'm sure.
Has he found a boat for that, or is?
What are we
I
buying?
don't know. We'll,
Yeah.
What are we buying a boat for?
so that he can go around, look at shoreline. If anybody's,
Dock.
Is it replacing one that we already have?
no.
So this is something entirely new?
Yep. Someone commented to me, well, why the fire department has a boat sitting over there? Why can't you borrow that once or twice a year? That's things that we can ask them when the time comes.
It's under code enforcement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you could rent a boat right out in the road.
So it's 600.
I see.
Well,
Yeah.
Borrow my
there,
kayak.
there is a need to get out on the lakes from time to
Yes,
time
there
and
is.
photograph.
Yes.
Okay, and maintain a photographic
agree.
record of what's happened out there. But we don't need to spend the summer cruising or fishing on the lake in order to do. But we really shouldn't be discussing this without somebody who knows
No.
about
And it
it.
doesn't mean,
No, but I'm just pointing that out for you to look
Right,
at
right,
first thing,
right.
when the time comes and
We
we.
got our
know,
location.
Zero in.
But that's always, like I said earlier.
Is this
we should
gonna be
have
at
it in
another
front of us
meeting,
and
Mr.
ask
Neal?
them.
That,
Is this going to
The
be at
heads of
another
department.
meeting that
Oh,
we,
yeah.
because
Oh, yeah.
I have a lot of
Lots of meetings.
notes, I have a lot of notes on this.
We're gonna have lots of names.
You had mentioned also about cemeteries, that we're going to
Right.
have that on the agenda as well.
the,
I got a boat
if
on
you
my
notice
front
in there,
lawn,
and,
trailer.
they have turned around and
Probably
included
loaded a
extra
hand on the
funding
back
for the
of it.
cemetery.
In the brand new one?
I saw your email.
On this brand new one.
That's good.
Sheesh.
Under what section is that?
I know, cemetery.
The article is. Oh, you have the town?
Municipal management?
No. Oh, shouldn't be.
It's
It should be
it's in
under
its
Conservation
own line
Committee or.
at the end, toward the end, I think.
Towards the end. Is that a pun?
It could be.
The,
Is it still under its own line, or is it part of the donation thing?
no,
Wait a minute.
Oh, here it is. It's the next to the last page, page 4. Veterans Graves Cemetery Maintenance.
yeah,
Okay.
you notice it.
You don't have the latest figure, do you? Right here. Oh,
And how did they get that?
requested more.
And how many cemeteries are we talking about?
Oh,
Oh, well, there's
quite a
a,
few.
There's one up by me.
these are mainly,
700,
they-
just sort of-
And
The town has an obligation by law to maintain the graves of veterans.
Yeah, but not everybody in the cemetery is a veteran, right?
no,
And I just wondered how they got 2,700. Did you just pull that out of the air? How many cemeteries are we talking about? How many graves are we talking about?
usually they have a pretty good
We'll find
idea as to which monuments
Do they?
need construction and things like
Wait.
reconstruction.
certain individuals have
Records.
the information, but they're reluctant on sharing it with the town people.
So the question will be, the logical question will be, because this is a considerable increase over what we have done in the past, and we've done the absolute minimal in the past, we probably haven't even done that, but the question will be, do we have a vehicle for expending that and achieving something with the money?
I
That's
do
part of it.
know at one point there was someone that they relied on for this kind of work, but
The, I emailed the town offices that I thought that it was perhaps time to turn around and consider either establishing a cemetery committee or turn around and revising the conservation committee ordinance and delegating to them the responsibilities for cemeteries and historic sites, and put it in as an ordinance, change to the ordinance, so that we get something formalized. Right now, the care of the cemeteries and veterans' graves are done unofficially on a volunteer basis.
For the most part, right? The only thing we're paying for is flags and monuments, right? That's
flags and flag holders,
flag-
basically.
Yeah, monuments.
Yeah.
So,
So,
I don't think they've done any monument repair in a number of years.
I don't know, I would hope not. I'm not
Yes.
sure.
We have a meeting coming up on this Saturday, on the 28th of this month, is it?
28th
Who
of
do, yeah, it's like
March,
that, as far as.
there'll be a Saturday morning,
At which time we're gonna go through
and
this
we're gonna be going through all the town accounts.
municipal.
see if there is a process of
Okay.
spending these funds and what they're
Do we
going
have
to
a
But,
meeting?
And I mean, we don't just.
Somewhere along
Kids out
there is-
everybody else.
do.
as I get information, whether it's like on
That
the
will be a
fire
decision, that will
department
be a decision that we'll have to.
or
Make.
the
I mean,
sand and salt shed,
or what we can do. Our
you know,
obligation,
require, you know, a lot of
obligation just to make-
discussion
So we'll have a meeting.
and whatnot.
prior to that.
I'll turn around and schedule a meeting so that we can only discuss those.
I mean, obviously.
That's one, what date,
But that's
what's the date on that?
the 28th of March.
20th of March.
Is it
9
here
o'clock
at
in the
9
morning.
o'clock in the morning?
Yeah. I'm not sure how.
15 minutes on every topic.
Yeah,
Let's see it.
everybody is limited to 15 minutes.
And we will go from there.
That's fine.
Whether we
Right here? Is it
how much we can
in
learn.
this building?
Now, to get stuff to you, how about if I just put it in Scott's,
Well, I actually came in looking for a book. See? Yeah, you can always do that. That's fine.
Did you talk with her? Dick, did you talk with her about getting on more books?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Oh, you
well,
did?
not the,
But, I mean, these are the numbers, that's all I care about, is getting the numbers. I have my own notebooks at home, thank you. I just want the numbers.
I can give you either than I can give her.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
That's not-
as far as dropping them off.
Oh, this is awesome. My
Thanks, I can
feelings
take
are-
that,
Are you-
I will
are you
take that,
thinking of-
thanks.
My
Advocating
feelings
for
are
this
so tender.
proposal
Sorry, Nance.
in the context of this year's budget? Are there places where it's
Which
applicable?
proposal?
This dedicated versus,
Versus borrowing?
yeah.
I'm interested in heading in that direction, let's put it that way. I'm not here standing, I'm not gonna vote for any of these buckets or savings accounts, whatever. But I am looking for a different philosophical approach to the way those funds are managed, okay, and collected.
Are there particular warrant articles where it's applicable this year?
I haven't gotten that far, okay?
The big
Sure, they will
thing,
be-
Tom,
they will
is,
merge.
I think what Tom is trying to do is change the mindset, because all of a sudden we've seen how the town is drifting more and more into setting up all these buckets. And, so there may be some that, you know, warrant, we should turn around and have, but next, you know, you turn around and, this is the point that I'd like to try to make, is that, you know, you don't have to go back too many years when we only had $300,000-400,000 in the underlying fund balance, okay?
Now we
And all of
have
a sudden,
what?
now you're looking, we got millions of
$2.5
dollars.
million?
You know,
Well, it depends on where you get your numbers, excuse me, where you get your numbers from. But we hear different numbers all over the place.
You're right.
I have one other question before we close. That is, as a new member, I was going through the various line listings, and I noticed a lot of donations. Are these sacred cows not to be touched?
Say that?
Donations.
Yeah, okay.
Are these sacred cows that can't be touched, or should they be looked at critically? There's thousands of dollars of donations, and I don't know half of the things, as far as the organizations, what their value is to the town of
Well, let's say,
Acton.
one of the things, when I was involved before,
Oh, you mean
They-
the organizations that we make?
Yes, which we
you
make
know, we
donations.
try to turn around, and we used to anyway, make sure that whoever we're donating to, you know, that activity or that organization is providing a service for our people.
Mhm.
Because next thing you know, you get people who say some organization in Portland
Mhm.
turn around and decides to send a letter to the town of Acton, and yet they don't service anybody in our town. Why should we be taking our tax money and trying to help the people in Portland?
And I think that part
We
of
had
the
to
other,
draw a line somewhere, and so the line was that if they provided a service to the citizens of Acton, then we'd consider it. Wouldn't guarantee it, but we'll at least consider it.
There are no holy cows in this budget, Bill.
Okay.
Okay, no holy cows.
and also, it used to be that some of these organizations had a requirement that they get that they raise a certain amount of money from local
Seed money.
seed money,
Right.
yes, to be matched for federal funds or something like that. They are nonprofits.
Now, one of the things that I have noticed is that, go back a few years, we never gave to all the lake associations, okay? And all of a sudden, we gave to one, and then all of a sudden another, and another, and you're looking at the budget, to turn around and see quite a few of the lake associations.
But some of them are quite big. I mean, Acton, Shapley,
Yeah.
Youth Conservation,
Yeah.
or whatever it is, $21,000. I guess you were talking about where people go and where their organizations go. To me, a municipality is number one obligation to its citizens is protection. And I think having good police protection, good fire protection, good school development for the children, and safety for children. Those are the things that I think, if you have limited amounts of money, you should be concentrating on. To give out things to various organizations and then worry about having a good EMS, first responder system associated with the fire department for $400,000, to me is a no-brainer. As to where we should be going with monies, especially if they're limited and hard to come by.
We're gonna have a lot of discussion on that topic.
Yes.
Good.
What we have right now with respect to that merger is a lot of unanswered questions.
Yes.
Okay? This is moving forward the way it is, as I understand it. You can correct me if I'm wrong, because Dick is more familiar with this, that the town of Sanford has sent the town of Acton a letter saying that in the event that Acton is unable to raise a squad to respond to a call, that they are going to bill $2,000 for each call they make to Acton. First question that comes up is, who are they gonna bill? There you have no agreement with the town of Acton now with respect to that. The only person it has been represented that they might bill the association, and it would break the association if they have no agreement of that sort with the association. The logical person for them to bill is the patient they pick up, okay? So, in which case, if they're insured, and hopefully most people are these days, and maybe more will be in the very near future, an appropriate response would come from that. But the thing that disturbs me most about this is being passed to us and passed to the town as a must-do. Well, my sense is there are a lot of ways to address the issue. And rather than bring this to the issue and say, you know what, folks, if you don't approve this, then there isn't going to be an Acton rescue. What the appropriate process here is that the town meeting elect a committee, spend a year studying the issue, okay? See how we can meet our needs at lowest possible cost, maybe by working with Shapley, maybe by hiring some of our own responders to stay in town or available at certain times. I don't know, but there are a lot of options out there that haven't been addressed as far as I'm concerned. So the appropriate path forward, in my way of thinking, is that the town meeting be requested to elect a committee, come back and report in a year to the town meeting as to what would be the best way to proceed, okay?
Did they give like a time limit on when they're gonna start doing that?
Yeah,
They did?
June
1st of July.
July.
Oh, this year?
Of this year?
Yeah.
And the letter came when?
Well, as they've already,
Last fall.
you know,
Last fall?
with the town of Lebanon, okay? And that went into effect, I think, last month. And they're having problems there. So, but they knew that the town of Acton and the town of Shapley were working on it. And so rather than take action, you know, at the beginning of the year, they turned around and knew that we'll see what happens as a result of our town meeting, whether it's turned down.
I had a
whether it gets-
discussion with the mayor 3 weeks ago. I brought up
With whom?
the mayor of Sanford. And one of the things that I asked him was where they came up with the $2,000 figure. He said, actually, we're gonna have to raise it.
I would be surprised.
That isn't enough money.
I don't know, and I'm not gonna go there, because these are all questions. There are lots of questions and no answers.
And if the selectmen would call the ambulance people in and say, we want a copy. How much money did you spend? How much money have you taken in? You can't intelligently discuss it until you know what the figures are in the past.
We have a lot of questions and not many answers.
Right.
And
Anyway, I'll
you're
keep
probably
everybody-
right, Tom.
In the meantime,
That the
if
town
there's anybody,
meeting-
if anybody,
Appoint a committee.
Absolutely, town meeting should elect a credible meeting, a committee, as opposed to having this group over here and this group over here. Somewhere in the middle, there is a course that will serve everybody's interests. But it takes some work to get there, and that's what these committees that are elected by the town meeting, because they're credible to the town meeting, they're elected representatives of the town meeting, can accomplish. And make the case for the town meeting to act.
okay,
People put down that, 50 miles an hour in the middle.
I think, Mr.
excuse
Chairman.
me, excuse me.
Sorry.
If anybody has any questions or needs any information, feel free to get hold of me and somehow we'll get it to you.
Do we have a regularly scheduled meeting in the near future? Besides tomorrow?
Not, till we turn around and get some more firm figures and whatnot. Like I say, every time I either get an email that the selectmen have turned around, changed this, or changed that, or added this, whatnot. And so,
Should we?
you know, you can turn around and see, you know, that these books, there's, budget figures dated 3/1, and then all, tonight I handed out the 1/5/35. So all of a sudden, you know, that's, you know,
Would young Peter Smith have any updated info for us on the final increase? That would be useful to.
no, but, well, let's say some of it.
I think
it's-
it's that association.
Well, the fire department request,
And, they'll turn around and show.
They're still in the process of
Oh, yeah,
pulling that information in.
yeah.
What they do is they.
So you're saying that we don't have another meeting to schedule for warrant and finance? We have tomorrow night with the
Tomorrow
school.
night, yeah.
But we're good.
Other than the 28th with the, what you call it,
With everybody?
yeah,
Our lakes.
That's it?
but say, it's something,
Understands our lakes.
if I can get something for us to discuss, you know, and have somebody come in, then I'll turn around and get hold of people and we'll schedule.
full-time fire medic, 70,000.
8,000 here, 2,000.
You know, and, so if you wanna meet every Monday night at 6:30,
Oh, I'm not saying I want to, I'm just saying.
Well,
Do you think we should?
I don't know right now.
Let's leave it this way.
Right now,
Somebody-
I just wanna get over the school thing, okay? And we should have final things, with the school is voting on their articles and whatnot, and so that's gonna be finalized tomorrow night. And then, we have a meeting.
We do have to vote on
A
it.
scheduled meeting with the, school, what's the date of it? Okay,
Tomorrow would be the.
10th.
March 31st, no, wait a minute, March 24th, the school board and deliberation with the warrant finance committee on the school audit.
Oh, okay, that's the
On the
24th.
March 24th, right. That is our committee meeting, Dick, so that's a 6:30 meeting, right?
Yep.
Here?
6 o'clock.
No, it's warrant finance committee meeting.
Oh.
It's not the school committee meeting,
So that's here?
it can be here, right?
Okay.
24, 324?
Right. And are we scheduled to act on those articles that night? Dick?
Yes,
Does that mean they will have been presented to us ahead of time?
We can arrange, and what we should probably do is test the waters in about a week and see if we want to have the superintendent come meet with us and, I'm sorry, I can't remember her name.
Ms. Boyvan?
No,
oh, Kim?
Kim, I'm sorry. Because Kim does a good job.
Yeah, she
Kim
does.
Boyvan,
She does do a good
Is
job.
that what her last name is?
Yes.
Okay.
What?
the principal.
Oh, no.
No.
Oh,
She's
the
the
other-
bookkeeper.
Is that
Kim
her
Oliver.
official name?
Kim
Come
Oliver.
on,
Oliver.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, she does do a good job.
Yeah. Very
What time did we
impressed
say
with
that
her.
that was on the 24th? Did we say 6 or
6:30.
6:30? 6:30.
Yeah, that will be a warrant finance committee meeting.
Okay.
And maybe what we ought to do is get a sense from the board if anybody has questions that they would like. We're supposed to vote that night. If anybody has questions, we would like to invite Kim or the superintendent or the principal or anybody else on the staff to meet with us prior to that. Let's see what happens tomorrow night, because what's happening down there is in process, okay? And the school board, I guess, is going to make some final decisions tomorrow night, right? And I think there are some changes that are going to occur before that happens. So when we have that in hand, maybe we ought to just take a week, look it over, and put our questions down on paper, and then ask somebody to come in. But I'll tell you what, as secretary, I'll send you all a question. Would you like to meet with somebody, if you'd like? And then I'll provide the chair with the results of that little survey. Does that sound like a good plan?
Well, it sounds like a good plan, but if we don't have the actual thing in our hands prior to voting, then,
Oh, we're gonna have it in hands. Tomorrow night, they are going to vote. We will have copies.
but there are going to
ready.
be, there are going to be changes, I'm sure.
Not after that.
You don't think?
No,
No, they can't.
Not after they
no,
vote.
no.
That was my understanding. Tomorrow night,
It's going to be the final.
they were gonna make their final,
Right. They will come up with, they will vote to approve the warrant, the articles on the warrant, okay? Then that comes to the selectmen, for them to do with what they will, but,
But if they make changes themselves on this thing tomorrow night, then it's going to be a couple of days before we get that.
no, they're not gonna make changes, because then it would have to go back to the school board.
I said if the school board makes
Oh, yes,
changes
yeah.
tomorrow night, then.
I don't think that will happen.
You don't think so?
I think that, there may be changes made tomorrow night, but those changes will be reflected in a vote tomorrow night. Okay. So if we were to think about a week to a week and a half to get together, to just give us a
Because
chance.
otherwise, then we end up being just a,
Yeah, well, that's the problem we have now, is,
Yeah.
you know,
Timeline.
get some information, and also tomorrow,
I
if
feel like
we
one of
got
those
change.
parliamentarians in Kiev, you know, gonna vote on the budget next, here's the budget.
So,
Are we adjourning? I haven't had supper yet.
okay.
I haven't either, but I haven't heard a motion to adjourn yet either.
Okay,
I'll move to adjourn.
second,
moved and seconded to adjourn. Any further discussion? None? All those in favor? Aye.